Greg Gutfeld on Fox News is the world's least funny person. I mean, he is horrendously unfunny. And I'm not the type of lefty who's like, I'm outraged about comedy. I think you're not allowed to laugh at funny things. No, it's that Greg Gutfeld is actually not funny. Sometimes people on the left see something that's funny and they pretend like it's not funny because they don't like the message behind it or whatever. No, this isn't that. This is that he's just not funny. But anyway, might be a rare issue where he got something right. Here he is talking about the drug war.
Dr. Hart wrote one of the bravest books you're going to find, Drug Use for Grown-Ups. Oh, there it is. That was my major at Berkeley. I still can't believe he didn't ask me to write the foreword. So the book is about legalizing drugs. It might piss some of you off, but that's what the drugs are for. But the book isn't just about legalizing the easy ones like pot or mushrooms or the window cleaner that Cat mixes with Gatorade, but heroin. Now, this is when people say, no, not heroin. Look what that drug does. The lost souls on the streets, haunting city corners like ghostly zombies, living for a fix. That's true. We indeed have problems. But here's the deal. That's happening while the drugs are illegal. Yet they're easier to get than COVID. Even my cat is dealing drugs. Could have been more subtle. Yep, while we pour billions into a drug war, not unlike Afghanistan, we just keep getting our ass kicked. We fund other countries' militaries to fight the drug trade, then let anyone walk across the border with a bindle up their butt. It's more counterproductive than a broom that shoots glitter. In 2019, over 70,000 people died from overdoses in the U.S. That's 70,000 more people than have read Kilmeade's new book. To make a joke about drug death. But during the pandemic, that number exploded, probably because we were all trapped inside watching CNN. But what is causing this wave of death? Don't blame prescription opioids, because as we cut down on that, the death rates skyrocket. No, today overdoses are driven by fentanyl. And like the coronavirus and cheap patio furniture, it's made in China. It comes through our southern border, and it's mixed into other street drugs to kick it up a notch. It's basically Hamburger Helper for junkies. Tell us, Lara Logan.
When the pandemic hit, we realized, without China, we got no antibiotics.
Right.
We got no medical equipment. So what did they do to change that? Mm-hmm. Nothing. Right? And when China got all that capability, that's how they found the analogs for fentanyl, which they then introduced as a street drug, made a deal with the Mexican cartels, and now they've got, how many Americans are dying every year, and we hear nothing about it. I mean, go to San Francisco, nobody cares that you got people standing on the street, pissing on themselves and, and defecating everywhere, and unable to function. And what do they say? Well, let's reduce the mandatory minimum sentencing for fentanyl. That's what the Biden administration Justice Department is working on right now.
So, during 12 months of the pandemic, nearly 100,000 Americans have died from ODs. That's a 30% jump. Experts blame it on the stay-at-home orders. I don't buy it, because when it comes to this stuff, the government is like our president's underpants, full of crap. It's about illegal fentanyl, not prescription drugs. And it's not overdoses, it's poisonings. People buy drugs with fentanyl in it, and they die, including people that you know. From Tom Petty to Michael K. Williams to athletes and actors. But the people you heard of dying of opiate overdoses, it's actually fentanyl poisoning. Not prescriptions, but a poison used to kill people deliberately. It's the biggest story you aren't hearing because all you hear is the word overdoses. And the worst part of this, patients who rely on legal opioids for cancer, pain, and other diseases can't get them because we've conflated safe drugs with fentanyl.
Here. He had Dr. Carl Hart on, who we had on Crystal Kyle and Friends. The guy's phenomenal. He did write an amazing book. Everybody check out that podcast and read that book. It really puts everything in a clear light, the real problem and what's going on in this country with drugs. And look, I can attest firsthand to this. There you go. That's one of my crutches that I'm currently using because I tore my calf. And, oh, shit, they're going to fall. Smooth, Kyle, smooth. When I went to the hospital, I could have used a Vicodin. I could have used a Percocet. I couldn't fucking walk on my right leg. I was in excruciating pain. Nothing. Didn't get any of that. They went from, in the past it was, somebody has a backache or a headache, give them Percocet. That was too far in that direction in terms of how they prescribed it. And now they're like, don't prescribe it to anybody unless they're literally on death's doorstep. And even then, hey, maybe we'll slap it down. So, and he's correct when he says the problem isn't really the opioids. The problem is the fentanyl. Anybody who's dying from an opioid overdose, it's really, he put the famous people on screen, and those people did likely die of fentanyl poisoning because they bought heroin and they thought they were going to take their normal dose of heroin, which they had done probably hundreds of times, thousands of times prior, and it was laced with fentanyl, and so they died because they OD'd. Or, as he says correctly, they were really poisoned. Now, why was that such a big problem? The reason it's cut with fentanyl is because it's illegal. When you make it illegal, it's on the underground market, it's on the black market, and guess what? They cut it with all sorts of unsafe stuff. The same thing happened with alcohol prohibition. During alcohol prohibition, they would make batches of alcohol in the bathtub, and every now and then there'd be a, quote, bad batch. And people would end up dying from having a cocktail. This was when it was illegal. When it's legal, is there some percentage of the population that's going to be alcoholic? Yes, it is. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But according to Carl Hart's research, it's 80-20. So 80% of the people who drink can do it, totally normal, totally fine, and only 20% have an issue. But for the 80%, they wanted to ban it back then? Well, it's like that with weed. It's like that with all these substances, even the ones that you've been told the boogeyman stories about. Are there a handful that truly are so dangerous that you need to regulate it? Yes, but that's the point. Legalize, tax, and regulate. Now, a lot hinges on that last word. You're not going to be able to go buy bath salts that make you rip your hair out and, drive a monster truck into a Walmart. You're not going to do that. You're not going to be able to get fentanyl at the local CVS. Should you be able to get Vicodin, codeine? Yeah. Should you be able to get a legal, safe, regulated version of all these substances? Yes. Greg Gutfeld is correct. Now, look, his politics are informed sometimes by his more libertarian streak. That's what this is. Libertarians sometimes are correct on war. They're correct on criminal justice issues, the NSA, the Patriot Act, stuff like that. And this is just a good example of it, drugs. And, he had Carl Hart on his show. By the way, Carl Hart goes on to argue with Kilmeade in a segment, and it's hilarious because Kilmeade is just so stupid. And he's like, well, we already have one bad substance legal. Alcohol, will allow you one, but not more than that. Shut up, Kilmeade. Shut the fuck up. So Carl Hart is correct. Greg Gutfeld is correct. And on the topic of homelessness, this is something he dives into. They talk about it a little bit more on the panel as well. But yes, homelessness, you're talking more about mental health and healthcare in general and poverty and a broken economy and a broken system. Is there some percentage of homeless people that have a drug addiction problem? Yes. But again, it's the 80-20 rule. 80% don't, 20% do. Should you ban it for the 80% because the 20% are there? No, what you should do is give people help. Give people housing. I did a study. It turns out the homeless are lacking homes. Maybe we could do something about that. Mental health, housing, we should have facilities that actually care for people. And on top of legalizing, taxing, and regulating drugs, we should have free rehab clinics. Like these problems are all problems that are solvable if we cared and the government wasn't corrupt and we applied common sense. And so even though Greg Gutfeld is horrendously unfunny, on the substance of this political issue, he's correct.